Get ready, because here's your host, Tyson Mutrix.
Welcome back to the Guild Live Show. I'm Tyson Mutrix, and today we've got a really fun one. We're going to be talking about not all thrive in some environments. We're going to be talking about some things going on with e-gates, which is going to be an interesting one. How you're probably dulling your brain. Hopefully not all of you are, but most of you, I guarantee that you are. Talk about doom scrolling, okay, a little bit, and something about click answers. So click with a Q, not a CK. We'll get to that in a moment. All right, with our first segment, we're going to be talking about how not all thrive. And this is about an article about, it's from Fast Company. Not everyone will thrive in an innovative culture, and that's okay. It's by Greg Sattel. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I want a lot of you to stop trying to be googly. You don't be Google. I want you to focus on building the right culture for your case mix, your clientele, and your team, not some generic innovative culture. Okay. Because it doesn't fit for everybody. It's just not the thing. There is no fixed creative personality. This is from the article. Leaders, they create conditions where some people and ideas thrive and others don't, right? And that's fine. Fit, it beats fantasy, because we have this fantasy. Sometimes we have this idea of what the culture should look like, and it's not always what we think it is, right? It's really more about fit, what fits, right? So they talk about Xerox a little bit, and it's how a great model can be a trap, where they flourished by creating sort of a different environment where different misfits, they really sort of thrived on that sort of environment. And you also kind of think about where there was a guy named Gary Starkweather, where he really, he was just sort of an out there kind of a guy, came with some crazy ideas, ended up building the laser printer. So really wonderful for that environment. But then others, they didn't fit in with that environment, and they left. Those people left, and they actually went and built Pixar, right? So you have these people that are still amazing, still great, don't fit that environment, and they left and built Pixar. So and the whole idea is that even high performers can be misfits in the wrong environment. Now, you can make the argument that if they had stayed in that environment, which they weren't flourishing in that environment, they were doing pretty poorly. Although they were rock stars and everything else, they weren't really doing well in the whole Xerox world. But like I said, maybe if they'd stuck around, maybe the company would have survived, because they could have gotten their ideas through. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is that with that environment, because at the time, Xerox was still a great company. Things have changed quite a bit, as you probably know. But I think that's more of the world in general as opposed to that company. And so your job as the leader is to really choose a culture that's fit for the purpose that you're trying to fulfill. And you're doing that because you know it's going to attract some talent and repel other talent, right? So the idea is you're going to create this culture that it's going to attract some people, it's going to repel other people. And that's a massive feature of creating the right environment, and not really a bug. Okay. So even if you have a really quirky environment, some people might view that as a bug. No, that could actually be a feature, that you're going to attract certain people and repel other people. So let's get on to the next story. So this is a fun one. This is one where Clear and TSA, they are going to launch some biometric e-gates at 3 major airports. This is kind of an interesting one where they're piloting this biometric e-gate that automatically match your face to ID plus boarding pass and route you straight to physical screening. So they're going to initially do it at Atlanta, Seattle, and then I think in DC is where. And that's going to be so you have to opt in for Clear Plus members, and then TSA keeps operational control. There's no taxpayer funding for the Clear units. Interesting, very interesting idea. So it's going to be later this month. So it's already live in Atlanta, apparently. They're going to be rolling it out in DC and then in Seattle later on this month. So later in August. So I'm guessing, unless they meet in September, but it says this month. So I'm guessing it's already August 20th. We will see. So how it works is that you got these real-time biometric verification at the gate, and that's going to replace the TSA podium check-in, where many of you go in, I'm talking about, you show them your ID or passport, or you show them your boarding pass, whatever they ask for at that airport, because I've noticed it is different. And then then after you get past that point, you're directed to the metal detectors and all that. So TSA still triggers access and does the vetting. The price, Clear Plus currently is about $209 a year. And it's often discounted via credit cards, just so you know. That's from Wall Street Journal. Scale says Baxter, Clear tested e-gates earlier this year at apparently Oakland, OKC, and GSP. I don't know what GSP is, before the big airport rollout. So the 3 pilot airports are the point to a nationwide expansion to prep for the World Cup / America 250 travel spikes. That's interesting. So TSA emphasizes opt-in biometrics and TSA control of gates. And that's one of those things where you have to opt in. It's not something that's going to be automatic. You have to actually opt in. So it's one of those things where I think there are a lot of concerns that people have with this one when it comes to privacy and civil liberties and everything else. But I think that's why it's an opt-in. It's an option for people that are very busy, like we are. For those of you that travel, this could be a really good way of streamlining things. I personally don't have a lot of issues with airports. I think that they're typically pretty quick, especially if you have pre-check. I've got pre-check, and usually it saves me time. Sometimes the pre-check line is longer, but that's usually whenever the lines aren't very long in general. So, but there you go. That is an interesting one that you should check out. I know it's something I'm probably going to check into. All right, the next one. This is an interesting. It's a little scrolling, little Freudian slip there, a little scary. Scrolling and scary. 5 ways we make ourselves less intelligent each day. And this is from Psychology Today. And the reason why I want to bring this one up is because if you think about like what our jobs are as lawyers in general, but then as law firm owners, like our strategic edge is our thinking capacity. It really is. If you really just kind of boil it down, that's what it is. And so there's 5 common habits that are really sanding down that ability to have that thinking capacity that you need. And so here's what the 5 are, and I'll give you something you can do to help your team out. But so fixed mindset, treating ability as innate. So that is having that, I guess, less of a closed mindset, or less of an open mindset. So you have more of a closed, fixed mindset. And then, so where a lot of times you see this is you're looking at other people, say, oh, they're just a natural talent. I just don't have that skill set, which is BS for the most part, right? A lot of times you can learn the skills that you need. Instead, you want to adopt and this is, I'm giving you the quick and dirty version of this article. They talk about adopting a growth framing, right? And this is going to measurably shift your performance, where you have more of that growth mindset. And that's why I talk about this a lot, where I've been on multiple podcasts fairly recently where I talk about how I've got the whole rising tides viewpoint, right? Where there's plenty of cases for everyone. I want to be able to build everyone else out. There's plenty of cases for everyone. There's plenty of room for growth for everyone. And I do firmly believe that. That's something I firmly believe. And I think that has significantly benefited me over my career. And the ones where I see a lot of people struggle is they do have that more, okay, I just don't have that ability mindset. There's only so many cases to go around. Those people over there are doing really, really well. It's killing my business. That's just not the way. That's just not the reality. Those are constraints that you're putting on yourself. All right, let's get to the second one. Sleep restriction. So reaction time, attention, working memory drop whenever you are not sleeping enough. You want to protect sleep like it's a deadline or a court date. Marco Brown, he talks about how sleeping well. I think we said every hour you sleep is worth $10,000 or $15,000. I think it's the way he puts it. I probably said that wrong, but he puts a lot of emphasis on sleep. I'm just being brutally honest. I'm not great at this. This is something where Jeremy Danielson called me out on it because we can see each other's Whoop data. Because if you have a Whoop and you're in the guild, we have this guild Whoop guild group, and so he can see my data. I can see his data, and he was even showing his son my data because I've been working on getting better at this. This is something, luckily with Whoop, I can track my data and see what I'm doing wrong. But I am working on getting better, and I am getting better at that. But it is something that I do know it is not good for attention. It's not good for, like I said, reaction time, working memory. Those are all really bad. So that's what's another thing. So that's number 2. Number 3 is alcohol. I don't have an issue with this one. I rarely drink any alcohol. So even moderate alcohol consumption over time, it's associated with structural brain changes. And the reason why I like that, it's from Psychology Today. So this is it's about the brain. That's why I like that. So it's from trusted sources. So this is something that's really tough. So what they recommend is that you reduce, or you even track intake. Just tracking intake can force you to reduce it. Even if you don't want to just say, okay, I'm gonna start drinking less. If you start tracking it, it will help. A good friend of mine, I will not mention who it is, started doing that, and they had recommended an app. I cannot remember the name of the app, but before they had a drink, they were supposed to read something in an app, a part of an app. And I thought that was really kind of an interesting thing. If I will reach out to that person and ask them if I can share the app, and I'll try to put it in the show notes. But that was an interesting way of approaching alcohol. Number 4 is no structure. So you have no structure to your day. If you looked at my calendar, you'd think it'd give you a seizure. But I think that helps me quite a bit. And procrastination correlates with executive function impairment. So if you're having executive function impairment, which also could mean maybe an issue with ADHD, but that's another topic for another day. We've had episodes about that, so you can check those out if you want to. But you want to use deadlines and open loops to resume quickly. Okay, so boom, you loop back into it, loop back into it, loop back into it. You want to have that structure. You want to put as much structure around your day as possible. And number 5, bad inputs / environments. So moods and cognition drift toward your information diet. Okay, so think about what you're putting into your brain. Okay, so what comes in. If what is it? What I don't know the actual phrase, but basically, if you put it in, put bad stuff in, bad stuff's going to come out. Right? That's just how it works. So good stuff comes in, good stuff's going to come out. So just as think about if you were eating, what sort of foods are you eating? Same thing with your brain. What is your brain consuming? You want to be consuming healthy things and not toxic things. So these are the things that are dulling your brain. Then here's sort of a team thing you can do to help with your team, where maybe everyone tracks their sleep for a month, and everyone needs to focus on an average of 7 hours of sleep minimum. Okay, make sure you track that, and then you focus on, and this is dependent on how much you will drink. So maybe 2 weeknights alcohol free, or maybe 4 nights alcohol free. Everyone commits to that. Then you do the third part of this. Maybe you have a couple of 2 90-minute deep work blocks a day, where everyone's just grinding away, getting work done, focused work. And then the fourth part of this is maybe you can mute. So that means like, just turn off 3 low value channels of information that's coming in towards you. So maybe that's a social media. One of those may be a social media. Another one might be like a person. And maybe another one might be a television channel that you've been watching so much. So if you can recognize 3 of those low value inputs, you can just mute those, turn those off. And then the fifth part of this is doing once a week, just a content cleanup, where you go through and you figure out what content are you consuming, and you get rid of anything that you don't think should be in your life anymore. So that was an interesting little thing you can do with your team to challenge them and everyone improve a little bit. It's good. All right, let's get on to our next story today. We're getting into it's doom scrolling. So this is somewhat similar to what I was just talking about, but that's why I put them back to back, so that they are somewhat similar. But this is from Men's Health UK, and I think this is a really interesting one. And they make the case that doom scrolling, that it hijacks the dopamine and attention. And then what they do is they offer 3 steps to break the cycle if you've been doom scrolling. I know that I am every once in a while guilty of this whenever I'm bored. That's something so I need to keep myself busier. But so it's very good. So here's what they talk about is it's chronic exposure to negative feeds leads to stress, sleep disruption, and there's also a bunch of attention costs. Harvard has documented the mental and physical ripple effects and practical ways to cut back. So the way you can, here's the 3 steps that you can use to help reduce this. So you time box your news. So you have 2 daily windows. And then you can also use screen time on your phone or Digital Wellbeing, also another app, limits. You can actually use those limits on your phones, but you use just 2 daily windows. Okay. So you're time boxing, so where you can actually consume. And then you want to use friction and curation. So you're going to remove apps from your home screen. That's creating that friction. You want to switch to grayscale, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. And then unfollow rage accounts. So that's the curation part of it. Okay. I think the switching to grayscale is pretty extreme, but who knows? I'm guessing it'll help. But you're creating that friction by removing, and that is very similar to some of the things that A World Without Email talks about, is creating that friction, because that's the problem with chat, is that there is no friction. You can just fire off a message in no time. You want to create some friction. So, but friction curation. So remove the apps, grayscale, and then unfollow rage accounts, which I think will help quite a bit, because I did that, and I regularly do that. And sometimes I find myself re-following people that I probably shouldn't, but that's why you got to go back and clean again. I just did that yesterday, where I added a YouTube channel 2 weeks ago, and then I just removed them yesterday. Just something you got to do. And then the third part is replace with dose actions. So walk outside, brief workout, call a friend to reset the brain chemistry. So you do something, just it's sort of a reset, right? You do a pattern interrupt. This is what I like to talk about quite a bit with my team. Is I talk about pattern interrupts. may have mentioned this on the podcast, but we had an employee that was kind of, struggling a little bit. And I just said, hey, I asked about her morning schedule is. I said, okay, well, just tomorrow, stop by Starbucks, right? You don't normally do that. Stop by Starbucks. I was like, I'll pay for it. I sent her a Starbucks gift card. I said, stop by Starbucks, and let's just change the morning routine. Let's just do something. Let's just do something different than what you're normally doing. So when it comes to this part of it, when it comes to the article, they're suggesting, healthy type of thing. So walk outside, brief workout, call a friend, but you just want to reset that brain chemistry. So, here we go. Oh, there's something else that's, they talk about the misconception that knowing more makes you safer. And that's not really true. The extra intake creates anxiety and without adding any utility, which I thought was really interesting. So there you go. That's for Men's Health. So check that out. And we're getting to the last story when it comes to Click. So Click Answers. And I thought this was really interesting. So I mentioned Comet. So Perplexity's Comet. I've mentioned a couple times now on the show. It is really interesting. I've been using it more and more. I find myself where I'm very close to ditching Chrome and switching fully over to Comet. It is pricey. It's not, you have to pay for the pro plan for Perplexity or whatever the top tier. I don't know the exact plan is, but what's really interesting is I had this idea as I've been using it more and more. And by the way, I guess I'm going to go back to the whole Chrome thing for just a second. The reason why I've not yet switched fully is actually the show and the podcast, because I'm not sure all of the apps that we use when it comes to recording, I'm not sure that they work in Perplexity's Comet. If they do, then I probably will make the switch. If not, then I won't be able to until all the different apps they catch up. So that's the main reason why I have not made that switch. But so what I was doing, and the reason why this topic is called Click Answers, is that the way Comet works is that on the right side there's a little chat window, and what makes it different from just like any other chat window, there's a lot of them where you can ask it questions and stuff, is that Comet can actually take over the screen of that tab that you're working in and do the work for you. And I showed this on, I think it was last week's show when it comes to a spreadsheet, but I normally will respond to my messages during office hours in Click, on the Click app, Zoho Click app, because that's the equivalent to Slack. Zoho's equivalent to Slack. And what I did was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to log into the browser version and I'm going to see if it will respond to the messages. So I didn't want it to do it automatically because I was a little concerned about what the responses might be. So I first said I had it gather all of the different comments that tagged me or direct messages that I had received, because that's how we deal with it in Click, is that if it's someone that tags you or if it's a direct message to you, then that's how I know to go and look at it. Well, it did that, and it had it create responses. So it did that and created responses, and it did a really, really good job of, I didn't make any changes to any of them. I only had it respond to 2 because I wanted to see how it would do, but it created the responses. Then I said, okay, now post the responses, and it did it. It did it flawlessly. It did it amazingly, which really has opened my mind to what, like, even more things that we can do with it. And I think I was being a little closed-minded as to, we're talking about the first story being, or maybe the third story about being closed-minded when it comes to things. But I think I was being really closed-minded when it comes to Comet, and you can do so many things with it. That's what, it's so powerful. And what's cool is you can take it and you can you can have it running in multiple different tabs. So I was talking about this yesterday during the Q&A. I was actually talking to Jeremy Danielson. We have a guild Q&A, and I have 3 screens. I'm looking at 3 screens right now. I'm actually at my normal work desk. Whenever I'm recording, typically I'm usually at the studio at home, or I'm at the studio that's over here up to my right that you all can't see. But we're doing a little bit of reconfiguration with that, and because I just wanted to, the background's too far away, so we're changing all that. But I've got the 3 screens in front of me, and then I have the ones I'm looking at right now. There's 2. I actually have 2 windows open on that. That's usually how I typically work. So on my left, I've got 2 screens, and then right in front of me, I've got two windows open. And at one time, I mean, yesterday morning, I was crushing everything because I was just going through and I was getting so much work done because I was getting things set and just coming back to it, right? It was doing these manual tasks for me that were fairly time-consuming tasks, and coming back, I was coming back, checking on it. Okay, boom, now do this, now do that. And it was really eye-opening as to what all the work I could do with it yesterday. It was so cool. And then it did the thing with click, and it was like, it really kind of opened up the floodgates for me on the things I'm going to be doing with it. So really cool. I thought I would share that with you all, something for you all to test out, because it ain't, oh my gosh, I got so much work done yesterday. It was really incredible. So, but that is all I have. Actually, I guess I'll stop. Go back for a second. Like, think about this, like, have it edit your briefs and stuff. Like, actually, like, you draft a brief or something, and let's say you do it in Google Docs. You're just say, hey, go through and look for, even if you just, instead of you just generally having it edit, say, okay, look for any punctuation errors, something like that. Boom. It'll go through and it will identify those to you, for you. And then you say, okay, fix them, and it'll fix them for you. Really incredible stuff. So, I'd share that with you all. I think is really cool, but, excellent. If you got something from this show, I'd really appreciate it if you would go and give us a 5-star review and a comment, saying that you enjoy the show. Really appreciate it. It helps us share the love with everyone else. If you've not gotten your tickets to MaxLawCon, get them now, maxlawcon.com. We are close to selling out, so make sure you get your tickets. Before you know it, they will all be gone. You won't be able to get any tickets. So please get them now, so you're not kicking yourself for not showing up. But thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful week. See you.
Our next mastermind in New York City is sold out. But don't worry, there's still time to get your tickets to the Mastermind and Max LawCon in Nashville in October. Max LawCon is 2 days of immersive learning, powerful insights, and meaningful connections, all designed to provide actionable strategies you'll take back to your firm and implement right away. No fluff, just real talk and tangible takeaways you can implement immediately. Go to maxlawevents.com for more details.
I deal with life different, make that limit squeeze. Went off for my style and identity.